What's going on, guys? Sorry if there's more background noise than normal. I've got my two kids with me, but in this video I wanted to compare Mara, Riot, and Cleanspark. Now of course, the day I'm trying to upload this, today's an outlier. Cleanspark seems so far to be outperforming on the day Riot and Marathon, although it is starting to pull back and they are starting to kind of level out together. But one thing we've been seeing is throughout the last couple of weeks when Bitcoin's been rallying, Cleanspark doesn't perform as well as both Riot and Marathon. Now in this video I hope to kind of explain why and give you my thoughts on when this, in my opinion, will change. Right off the bat, I do want to say that I think it boils down to the Bitcoin balance. As we know, Cleanspark has spent a lot of its time, selling its Bitcoin, not building up its holdings because of how much they wanted to accelerate their growth. Now you need to remember, Cleanspark is a much smaller company than both Riot and Marathon. Cleanspark started as a microgrid company and just recently got into the Bitcoin mining space. And in my opinion, the growth we've seen from them is actually fantastic. But I think in the end, it does boil down to their Bitcoin balance. And that's the reason that the others have been performing a little bit better. Let's look over all three. If you like these videos, consider hitting the like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, check out the links down below, and let's get into this. Now, first off, let's look over Marathon. This is my least favorite of the three. They're currently sitting at a $711 million market cap. Their price to book is actually higher than both of the others, and their price to sales is also higher than the other two. But to me, it's really where the balance sheet is that makes me less bullish on Mara than the others. You'll see that Marathon has $783 million of debt as of their last earnings update. They currently have cash of $103 million. And I can already hear you guys saying, but they have the most Bitcoin. Yes, as of their last mining update, they do have 8,260 Bitcoin, which as of this mining update is 191 million, but currently they're sitting on $223 million in Bitcoin because of Bitcoin's raise in value since the last mining update. So in reality, adding their Bitcoin holdings, adding their cash, they still have a much larger amount of debt to those two assets. Now there's certainly a lot more to it, but this is just looking simply at their balance sheet, and I think Mara loses this one. Now I did want to show you on the chart, Marathon is still bearish, and I'm going to be watching for this 200 MA flip. It seems to be finding resistance on the 200 MA, but it does look like it's near a flip. As long as Bitcoin slowly continues up, I do think Mara will finally see that bullish flip or a golden cross, and this can definitely push this stock higher. You'll also notice that there's a lot more volume than we typically see. That's another good thing to watch out for. We want to see that golden cross on increased volume. Now I did want to bring up something on the side here just to kind of make you think here. Look at what they expect for revenue. Let's just keep their Bitcoin holdings aside. It does look like they are, trying as much as they can to continue to hold Bitcoin. And that's a great strategy, of course, because as Bitcoin likely goes up into 2024, into 2025, this will definitely benefit Marathon. But what do they expect for revenue? They expect 42 million for revenue. This is right around the same amount that Cleanspark is expecting for revenue, a company that is like a fifth of the valuation of Mara. And I know Bitcoin holdings for Cleanspark is drastically less than Mara, but it's something interesting to see that in terms of earnings, they're right around the same revenue. And next, let's look at Riot. Let's see what kind of Bitcoin they're holding. Let's look at their balance sheet. I definitely prefer Riot over Marathon, and I'm going to show you why. Now, right off the bat, Riot does have a little bit less Bitcoin held than Marathon, but keep this in mind as a side note. What did they produce in their February update? Well, they produced 675 Bitcoin. Riot is somewhere around 5 times the valuation of Cleanspark, and yet they really didn't mine all that much more compared to Cleanspark throughout February. But looking at what Riot currently holds in terms of Bitcoin, they hold about 190 million in cash. And in terms of their current cash on their balance sheet, they're holding 230 million. So altogether with their Bitcoin and their cash, they're holding right around $500 million. And they have very little debt, only $22 million as of their last earnings update. One thing to realize is this is the highest valuation of the three. They are at a $1.3 billion market cap. They have a more reasonable price to sales than Marathon, and they are currently trading under book value. And one thing I did want to bring up for you guys is Riot has actually seen a golden cross, and we really haven't seen this high of volume in Riot since roughly July of 2022. Now, one thing that's interesting about Riot is they expect much more revenue than the other two miners, and they only have slightly less Bitcoin held than Marathon. And I have swing traded Riot before. I'm actually thinking about adding some exposure to this, because as Cleanspark kind of continues to struggle because of their small holdings, I do want a little bit of exposure to one of these, to Riot or Mara, and I think Riot would be the clear choice. It's more bullish on the chart, they have a more attractive balance sheet, And while they do have less Bitcoin held than Marathon, they have a lot less debt, obviously, as mentioned in their balance sheet, and they're expecting higher revenue than Mara. And next, I wanted to quickly go over Cleanspark and show you that, this company is 1/5 to 1/7 the valuation of Riot and Mara, and it is definitely higher risk. They're a smaller market cap, therefore more risky. Also the fact that they have more debt than cash currently. But do realize that they are set to see a record-breaking quarter, and with Bitcoin's push up lately throughout March, I'm even more confident in that. We are still waiting for their next mining update here in March, and that'll give us an idea on their next earnings. We had January, we had February, we're just waiting for March. All we need to see in revenue is about 14 million, and we're back to year-over-year record-breaking quarters in terms of revenue. And it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with the remaining 100 Bitcoin they hold. Yes, that's right. Cleanspark only holds right now 100 Bitcoin as of their last mining update, not counting what they've mined throughout March. So I'm really curious to see how they do this month. Do they end up building up their Bitcoin balance? In my eyes, the execs are obviously working on seeing this record-breaking quarter. I think that's their goal. They want to show Wall Street that they have a year-over-year increase in revenue, not a decline. And that'll be the first time we've seen a year-over-year increase in revenue in quite a long time. But that's where the fear lies. Their balance sheet isn't as solid, but I would argue that Mara's balance sheet is even worse. And lately these guys had a lackluster February. They sold more Bitcoin than they mined, and that definitely causes a little bit of fear for Wall Street. They're uncertain with this one. They have a very low cash balance. They don't have as much Bitcoin as the other bigger boys because they utilized all that Bitcoin throughout this bear market to grow. I mean, as you saw, Cleanspark is not all that far behind in terms of monthly production, and it is a small fraction in market cap to the other companies. And looking at the chart on Cleanspark, it's not the most bullish chart. Riot definitely looked the best of the three, and Cleanspark is still in a downtrend. I do think their next mining update is set to change that, and this may push the technicals to a bullish side. But keep an eye on that volume, keep an eye on the MAs, see that we start curling upwards and finally see that golden cross, and then it's gravy train from here. But what do you guys think of the three? What's your first, second, and third pick? I'm still rolling with Cleanspark, but I am considering getting into Riot. Cleanspark currently is the only Bitcoin miner that I hold, and I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to limit my risk a little bit more and widen my exposure to the Bitcoin mining realm. But let me know what you guys are doing down below. Hopefully this kind of explains why Cleanspark has been underperforming compared to that of Riot and Mara. But in reality, these guys have a much smaller market cap. They have a higher growth rate in exahash, and I think all their effort throughout this bear market to, instead of hold like the other guys, instead of utilizing this Bitcoin to catch up to these other guys, will play out to be the right choice. But thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you later.